Good evening from Southeast Asia. This will be episode or volume number 243 of the alienanalprobe.com podcasts. You can go to alienanalprobe.com or you can go to stockphotosworldwide.com, and incidentally, all tapes are copyright stockphotosworldwide.com 2023. I hate that. I'm going to make a little automated thing. I just push a button and it says that. Really, I'm going to do that because I'm just getting lazier and lazier. Okay, everybody knows we have a giant collection of alien reports. Some of them be crap. The last episode, 242, was an unmitigated disaster. Do not listen to it. I'm going to put some kind of big red stamp on that turkey. Just says, do not listen to this one. You know, I went to all that work, so I'm going to post it, but don't listen. It was just the ramblings of a crazy woman somewhere. She didn't know if she was in New York or Rhodesia. It was it was the worst one by far that I've ever gone through. It was 10 times worse than any of Anton Anfilov's stuff. It was mind-bending, brain-bursting. They don't get any worse. I don't see how they could get any worse. If you just read random words for an hour, that's what you would have. Okay, on the one hand, I wonder how things like that survive and get admitted into an alien report database, because you're thinking, well, anybody would look at this and think, well, this is crap. This is just absolute bullshit. I don't even want that in my files. Okay, and that's pretty much how I feel. The thing is, and this happens fairly often, you get a report like that that's just chaos. It's just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense at all, and you give it no credibility whatsoever, and you can't wait to delete it. And then, 6 months later, you're reading along, you know, some drunken LSD-riddled, old, nasty somebody, you know, in that report went on and on and on about how they, just make it up yourself, how they woke up in the desert and, they were surrounded by a carousel of purple aliens shooting pink smoke out of their ass, and their farts smelled really beautiful, and they kissed them all, and then they all had sex. Oh, it was really, really good. And, all the aliens gave the person a puppy, Okay, so it's just crap. It's just crap. Okay. So you want that turkey out of your database. So you forget it. I mean, you purge it out of the database. You purge it out of your brain. And then 6 months later, you're reading along. And here's a report from 300 years earlier on a different continent. People speaking a different language. And there's 4 of them this time. And they say they all woke up in the desert. And they were surrounded by a carousel of, whatever I said, purple aliens, farting pink smoke or something. And it's the same scenario. It's the same scenario. Different people, different continent, 300 years different, And then you sort of sit up and you think, what? What in the hell? That ain't possible. And then then it's harder to dismiss that one a little bit, not too much. And then there you are a year and a half later, and you read about some Zulu warriors, and they're out chasing some hyena in the desert. And they suddenly find themselves surrounded by a whole circle of purple alien, and it goes like that. So that's why you don't forever delete anything. I mean, you want to, God knows, oh my God, you want to, but you don't, you can't. It's like, if you're doing scientific research, you don't delete any data, even if it doesn't pan out, even if the data might be possibly corrupted and worthless, you don't delete it. You don't necessarily use it, but you don't delete it just in case, So that's why we have to go through those. And oh God, that was a pain. That was the most painful one ever. If you've listened to a lot of these, you've seen me get really ticked off, really, really ticked off about the fake ones and the bullshit ones and the crazy ones. That one was so far out circling Pluto, that I didn't even hardly make me mad. I just was trying to keep my brain inside my skull, that's all. So anyway, hopefully, I mean, that was the worst one ever. Out of we started with 9,400 reports. That was the worst one ever. By a pretty good margin, by 20-30%. Jeez, just don't listen to it. Just don't do it. See, now you've heard me rant about this thing. Now you got to go listen to it. I'm telling you, I'm warning you. You be warned. Don't listen to it. It's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. It's just. I'm okay now. I've said that, so I'm going to try really, really hard from this moment on to purge it, get it out. And the way you do this, you take a garden hose and you stick it in one ear, and then you tell your kid to crank that puppy up, full pressure, and all the bullshit flies out the other ear. Oh, Jesus, I hope no kid listens to that and tries it. Oh, hell. That would suck, wouldn't it? Well, oh, God. Okay. Oh, I'm still reeling from that. Reeling. Going to spend 24 hours. Alrighty then. We have the giant collection, and we go through it. We look for bullshit like that one. And if there's bullshit, we delete it like that one. And if there might be possibly a teensy little bit of credibility to it, we take a little pinch of sand, a big one or a little one or whatever, and we drop it into a bucket. And there's a picture of the bucket on alienanalprobe.com. The cat's, he's in it. He ain't sleeping. And if we ever fill that bucket up, well, that'll suck because then he could still go. Yeah, if it's full, he's going to go in it anyway. Asshole. If it's ever full to the top and overflowing and some on the floor, then we say, okay, we believe in aliens. Right now, as of 2:43, it's at 90%. Okay, so we spin the dial and the marble drops and we start reading. And we just hope and pray to Buddha and to the Great Pumpkin. We pray, please, Great Pumpkin, no more horseshit like last night. No, please. We can't take it anymore. Okay, this is Perth, Queensland, Australia. And this one, I've got a flag on this one. I don't know why. Interesting. From like 10, 20, well, it couldn't be 30 years because it's May 17th, 1996. So it could have been 20 years I went through this report. Time is 22:30 or 10:30 at night. They say Irene Sander was nodding off to sleep when a blinding white light woke her and a throbbing noise filled her ears. I think that be called thunder and lightning. Thinking. I don't like the ones where they say they're going to sleep or they were asleep and then they woke up and then there was aliens. I don't like those. I don't like those. I think in nearly virtually every single one of them, they just dreamed a bunch of shit. Okay, paralyzed. Yeah, because she got that sleep paralysis thing. She's paralyzed now. She says, paralyzed, she lay in fear as her body rose off the bed, almost reaching the ceiling. That's called out-of-body experience. UB. Okay. God dang. Then suddenly she went blank, waking hours later, exhausted and aching. Well, her room filled with a horrible odor. Oh, shit. Aliens are sneaky that way. You know, they can knock you out by a variety of means. And then they come in and they probe. And then they leave. And you wake up and there's a horrible odor in the room. That's why they left. They couldn't take it anymore. Oh, hell. Oh, hell. This is too terrible. Franklin, the cat, he'll be in the background here any minute. He pops up and he's found himself a new toy. So, you know, he's very proud of that thing. Then suddenly she went blank, waking hours later, exhausted and aching. Aching where? Oh, God. Her room filled with a horrible stench. When Irene regained consciousness, she was covered in bruises and puncture marks. Oh, son of a bitch. Now, I still ain't seen no aliens, but we shall see. We're halfway through this one. I didn't pick a long one because I'm scared of long ones now. Severely dehydrated. Oh, Jesus. How long was she? Oh, hours. She's out for hours. Severely dehydrated. Well, you know, read between the lines here. Okay. Bruises and puncture marks. Oh, she's very coy. Severely dehydrated and disoriented. Oh, no. I go through these reports and I have a dirty, filthy mind, okay? And it's a somewhat creative, you know. It's not all that creative, but a little bit, you know. I mean, I wrote 9 books and I wrote countless magazine articles. And the reason I stopped writing for national magazines was that I ran out of true stories and I couldn't make them up. That was the problem. Oh, God, they were buying them, paying me big freaking money. Back in 1970, about 1980, I was getting $6 a word. So you can imagine I wanted to continue doing that, but I had no imagination at all. When I ran out of true stories, I had told them all, mostly commercial diving and rescue and things like that. When I ran out of stories, we did 321 rescues and 131 shipwrecks raised. And when there were no more stories to tell, I just stopped writing for magazines and I wrote books, but they aren't all that creative either. Anyway, so I go through these and I try, you know, I try my best. My teensy little brain tries to be creative and, you know, like that, but it ain't. Okay, it wants to be, but it ain't. I mean, I want to be a rock star. I want to be Mick Jagger too, but I ain't, and I never will be. But anyway, I go through and I play around, you know, and when I'm making up shit, you know, after 1, 2, 3 seconds, I go back and tell you, no, I made that up. Okay, so, you know, I read this pretty much verbatim, you know, with my little interjections. But then, many, many times when I do that, they validate me. Okay, Irene says she was severely dehydrated after, and yeah, whatever. and disoriented. Irene believes the aliens had raped her. Well, I did not make that up. You know, sometimes I do, and then I tell you, I always tell you, I did not make that up. Oh, hell. Her son, Ryan, was also raped. No, I see, I made that up. She didn't say that. Her son, Ryan, also remembered a bright light and remembered flying on board a spaceship to different parts of the world, accompanied by short aliens about 90 centimeters in height. Shit. They were very thin with grayish-blue skin and black almond-shaped eyes. Well, they all got fucking black almond-shaped eyes. Christ. Think up some new ones, for God's sake. Irene remembered being inside the ship. Where did this probing shit take place? Oh, I see what they did. They knocked her out. She's in her bed or whatever. They knocked her out, and then they like floated her to the ship. That's what happened. Floated her to the ship. Yeah. No. Well, no. Doesn't make any sense either. She rises off the bed, almost to the ceiling, and then she's caca-goo-goo sleeping again or whatever. Then she wakes up hours later and she's in the room filled with a horrible odor. So, you know, whatever they did it in the room. Oh, God. I know the whole, you know, I ain't no kitten. You know, I know the whole fascination, I guess, with the whole backdoor thing, you know? I ain't not an aficionado of it. So, you know, despite the name of this website, you know, every time I eat those chocolate-covered grasshoppers, I told you about those before. Oh, they're tasty, you know. I mean, sometimes you chew them, sometimes you don't. You know, if they're babies, you don't chew them. You know. And when they start talking about crap like this, where she wakes up exhausted and beat up, and the room smells like poop, you know, you know, it makes them come up again. They crawl. They're like zombies. They're like zombie grasshoppers. When they hear that stuff, it makes them come back to life. Okay, and they hey, it's dark in here. Where the hell are we? I don't know, but we came in that way, so let's go back out. Okay. I really am not into the whole alien anal probe thing. I mean, I joke about it endlessly. That's to mask my horror. Okay? God. Okay, she's severely dehydrated and disoriented. Irene believes aliens had raped her for hours and hours and hours. Oh, God dang it. But she never saw him, apparently. Okay. Her son Ryan also remembered a bright light and flying on board a spaceship to different parts of the world with aliens about 90 centimeters in height. Let's see, 90 centimeters, that's about 3 feet. So, you know, how much raping can they do, really? You know, I mean, okay. They were very thin with grayish-blue skin and black almond-shaped eyes. Yeah. Irene remembered. Oh, no. Now she remembers. Why? Irene remembered being inside the ship. It was dull silver in color. I guess inside. With a horrible, musty smell. She communicated with the aliens via telepathy. Okay, did she say stop? You know, because that's kind of a prerequisite. Okay, see the grasshoppers. The grasshoppers are coming. When I read this stuff, it triggers things in my tiny brain. In Southeast Asia, I don't know what all other countries. Southeast Asia, all of Southeast Asia. In the early, well, two things happened. In the early days, they did not build very good plumbing systems, especially the toilets. Go to China, for God's sake. Just, oh, God, go to China if you want to gag up. Oh, God, they got those squat toilets. Oh, my God damn. And anyway, so the sewers could not handle toilet paper. Well, yeah, they could, but people didn't want to try it because every once in a while they couldn't. Okay, so what they do is, in the really civilized parts of Southeast Asia, you can use toilet paper. You know, that's a pretty modern damn thing for them. But you can't flush it down the toilet. Really? So, you got a little basket. You put it in. Everything goes in that basket. Most of them don't have a lid. And they come and empty them, once or twice a week. All public places, restaurants, everything like that. The malls have kind of gotten them over that because the malls were mostly built with Western money. And the Westerners said, no, we ain't doing that. No, we're going to have real toilets. But still, in anything that's not a big corporate deal, you're gonna find, if you're really unlucky, you're gonna find a squat toilet, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. If you're a little luckier, you're gonna find a regular toilet, but you can't flush anything down. Of course, everybody does, but except for the traditional Southeast Asians, they were raised that way, so they don't flush anything. Oh God. And so anyway, the whole point of this ridiculous story was that when you walk into one of those places, you got what Irene called a horrible, musty smell. Okay, so if you are unlucky and you get the squat toilet, which is most of China, and well, it's all of old Southeast Asia. Anything that was built more recently is going to have a regular toilet. But all of the older stuff, which is a very great deal of Southeast Asia, is going to have a squat toilet. And they don't have water in them. They're basically a glorified hole in the floor with a little place on each side to put your feet. Oh, God. You want to hear this really? You sure? I mean, you could say no. Just turn it off. If you're eating dinner, really, seriously. If you ate within the last 72 hours, or you plan to eat within the next 72 hours, just turn it off. Go on, wait for the next one tomorrow, next day, whatever. Okay. I'm going to give you a count to 5. You got time to turn it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Hopefully now you can't hear me. Okay, so you go to the squat toilets, and I've got pictures of them. Maybe I'll put one on in the background sometime. Oh, God. And it's just a glorified porcelain hole in the floor. You go in there, you pull your pants down. Oh, God. And you kind of back up onto this little raised surface thing. You're 6-8 inches above the regular floor, onto a tiled area. And you back up onto the squat toilet, and you put your feet on each side of it. So now your feet are about 2 or 3 inches above the tiles again. And nothing to hang on to. There's no railings. There's no nothing. There's, just imagine you're going in the woods, okay? And you don't even have a branch or a sapling to hang on to. You're just, and you go. And of course, there's no kind of guard or anything around the hole you're going into. So if it misses, or if it splashes a little bit, goes on your clothing. I don't know how you would guard against that unless you took garbage bags with you and you cut Well, you wouldn't even cut feet holes. You would just put them over yourself, over your clothing. You could do that. Yeah, I never thought of that. You could put a garbage bag. You could step into a garbage bag like a potato sack race. Kind of, sort of. I think that might work. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything like that before. But anyway, so you go, okay, and you hope you don't get too much of it on your pants, your clothing, your dress, whatever. God damn it! I mean, you almost have to just strip off your clothing. And of course, it has, these things haven't been cleaned for 2-3 years, and they're crusted with grasshoppers. Get down there, you little bastards! You ain't coming up now. They're crusted with poop and pee and God, whatever, whatever else. Whatever other substances might come out of a human body. Okay, every goddamn fucking one of them. Okay. God. And so you get done, and then you're looking for the roll of toilet paper. Well, there ain't none anywhere. And you're thinking, oh my God, whatever shall I do now? And what you're supposed to do is, there's going to be a bucket, maybe a plastic drum, maybe 20, 30, 40 gallons, sitting there within reach of the toilet. And in that thing, hopefully it has, hopefully whoever got done with it last time, hooked it on the side and it hasn't gone down to the bottom. or you'll be scuba diving to get it. And you get that thing. It's a ladle. It's a big ladle. You could make soup in a tin. I don't know why I thought of that. You could boil grasshoppers in, whatever you want. It's biggish. Okay, and you dip that in whatever water's in that drum thing. Okay, and you fill it, however much full you want, and you bring it over to yourself. And you cup your hand, and this is painful, I'm sorry. You cup your hand and you scoop up some water, and you try to throw it upwards on your ass, and you're still balanced there. You're still balanced over this stupid hole in the floor, praying to God you don't slip and fall into it. I mean, it's not a big hole. It's a hole about the size of a toilet hole, but you really don't want to slip. So you scoop up this water and you try to throw it on your ass. And you try to do that over and over. Well, it's not going to work, is it? Really? Depends, depends on how things went when you were going, literally how things went. But it's not really going to work. So you got to get down and dirty, You got to get mad dog, like Clinty says. You got to get mad dog mean, and you splash a bunch of water up there on your ass, where the aliens go. And the splash isn't going to do it, so you got to take your hand. Son of a bitch. You got to take your hand and you got to do it, Yeah. And you got to scrub with your hand. Most people do it with their hand kind of sideways. So you're getting like the index finger and the knuckles, and the area between index finger and the thumb. That's because that's just kind of how it works out. But you can use whatever. There's no rules. And so you got to do this over and over. So you get your hand. Okay, you get your hand, and you got to scrub your ass, or whatever whatever part needs scrubbing. Different people have different parts. And so what's naturally going to happen when you're doing this? You're going to get some foreign material on your hand. And then your ass isn't clean yet, because you got to repeat this. And your hand isn't clean, and now you just got a big slimy brown mess, you know. I'm sorry. And so what do? You got to wash off your hand to some degree, you know, so you can go at it again. And so you dip your hand into this big ladle thing, you know. It's like a saucepan, you know. You could make a can of soup in it, you know. It's biggish, so you can get your hand in there and you swish it around. You know, you're not going to use your other hand because the other hand is trying to hold up your clothing. Okay, God forbid that should drop down. You know, God forbid. Just God fucking forbid it. Okay, so you're trying to swish this dirty hand around in this ladle thing and get it clean enough, which it's, you know, it's never going to be. You don't have wash rags, you don't have soap, you don't have hot water. The water, you know, is going to be ambient temperature. There's no such thing as warm water in Southeast Asia. It's just ambient. That's a lot of fun to shower. And so you get it as clean as you can, and then you go at it again. Well, you got foreign matter in the ladle, unless you empty it and go get another ladle full. And your hand's not perfectly clean, and now whatever you had on your ass, that's smeared all over the place. You know, that's it's smeared all over the place. I mean, you've diluted it down, you know, but it's not gone. Okay, so let's say you get a fresh ladle. You take the dirty one, you dump it in the hole under your ass, and then you get a fresh one. And you get your hand, you cup your hand and get it full of water, you know, and then you splash the water up there and you go at it all again. And you might have to do this, depending on how nasty the bowel movement was. You might have to do this really quite a few times. I mean, if you're, okay, best case scenario, if you're really lucky, I'm thinking you might get out of there with, God, I can't imagine 3 cycles of this. I'm thinking 4, minimum 4. But if it was a difficult movement for one reason or another, you know, you might have 10 or 15 cycles of this, trying to get some semblance of clean, you know, and there ain't going to be no soap. Okay, so let's say you get it to the point where you feel like, okay, you can go, you can leave. You wash off the bad hand, or just cut it the fuck off, you know, it doesn't matter. Just cut it off, you know. Get it gone one way or the other. So you wash that thing in a fresh ladle again, okay? And now you got to dry it off. Well, there's nothing to dry it off on except your own clothing. Really, even in most malls, that's going to be the case. Even if you got a real toilet and you had toilet paper, and you go find some way to wash your hands, you're not going to have soap because they won't refill them, and you're not going to have any kind of paper towel things or anything to dry your hands. So, you know, you're standing in the mall waiting for your kid to come out, and all these other people are coming out, and every single one of them is wiping their hands on their pants and their dress, and they're, you know, trying to look like it. They're not really doing it, but they are, you know. Okay, so you're all done. Your ass is as clean as you can make it under those circumstances. You know, and you just can't wait to get home and take 2 showers. And all this time, you know, you're splashing water. It's going on your clothing. You don't know if you know, little wayward lumps of poop are going on your clothing. Oh, God damn it. And you're just hoping not too much of it did, you know. So you get all done, and there's no way to dry your hands. So you dry your hands off on your beautiful skirt, you know, and you get everything, all your clothing back in order. and arranged. And then you got this, there was no water in the toilet. It's just a hole with this 90 degrees at the bottom. It turns, and the poop falls down there, and it ain't going nowhere unless it's got water to, move it along. Okay, so then you got to get as many ladles full as it takes. You got to dip them out of this big barrel, or sometimes it's a big cistern kind of a thing. Those are disgusting. Sometimes they have snakes and shit in them, and they're all green and slimy. And so you get as many labels as you have to, and you dump them into this hole, trying to make your poopy go away. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a clog in there, and you're just like an outhouse. You might be going on 2, 3, 4, 10 other people's poopy. And those things, they don't lead into any kind of controlled system. They just lead, to under the street, and when the wind's blowing right, that comes up, and everybody under the street can smell it, and the snakes can smell it too, and they like it, so they go down there, and then they'll come up through these squat toilets, So that's always a hazard. And then, if you are the cook in the restaurant right around the corner, you just go back to work, because you got no place to wash your hands there. So you rinse them off a little bit. And with this ladle, going in and out of that big barrel, it gets grossly contaminated. And that's how you do it. But if you got lucky and they had toilet paper, or if you brought toilet paper, I don't go anywhere without half a roll, bulging out of my pocket. Then it helps. But anyway, so we're talking to Irene. And Irene said she remembered being inside the ship. It was a dull silver in color with a horrible, nasty, musty smell. She communicated with the aliens via telepathy, and she don't tell us what she said or what they said or anything else. I can imagine the conversation, Did you rate me? Yeah, quite a few times. We all did it. Well, was it good? Yeah, it was okay. We never seen a human before. We couldn't really figure out which hole was the right one, so we just used them all, But it was okay. We don't really care, because we're only 3 fucking feet tall, Oh, God damn. Okay, credibility or not. I don't know. I can't say positively this never happened in the history of the universe. I'm thinking she's probably just sleeping and she dreamed this shit. But, on the off chance that, maybe she got raped all night. In every orifice, I'm going to give it a quarter of 1 grain of sand. Goes into the bucket. And if that bucket's ever full of this shit, then we really have gone somewhere. Sucking hell. Okay, Rutland. We're over our time already. Do we want to do this one or not? I hate to just do one, Let's see, I'm skimming. Yeah. Okay. We'll just knock this puppy out of the park, get it out of here. Rutland, Vermont, May 19th, 1996. Pretty recent, 22:30, 10:30 at night. The witness was cooking dinner. At least she was awake. In her kitchen when she noticed a strong glare of light streaming through the kitchen window. Oh, God dang it. Now that touches a nerve. Oh, my God. I've mentioned this a few times when I was a little kid, 4 or 5. Yeah, 4 and 5. Occasionally, only happened a few times. And it always happened when I was in the kitchen, I think, when we were making dinner in the kitchen. This really weird ass light would come in through the kitchen window, and it was the most odd, bizarre, really intense shade of purple or violet or something like that. And it just flooded in through the kitchen window, and I was terrified. I would go in the corner and just curl up. And I don't remember anything after that. Oh, hell. Okay, so the witness was cooking dinner in her kitchen when she noticed a strong glare of light streaming through the kitchen window. Oh, God damn it. She stepped out into the back porch, I think onto the back porch, and noticed a disc-shaped object hovering over the house. Shit. Could be the same damn one. As she started walking back into the house to call additional witnesses, she was confronted by a strange figure with huge round eyes. So what? He's like, okay, so she has turned around. She's going back in the house. And what, he's like in the house or something already? My God, they're clever. She apparently suffered a blackout. Okay, that's perfectly reasonable there. And does not know what happened for 2 hours. Well, we know what happened. We can fill in so many gaps in these stories. alienanalprobe.com. Hell. She vaguely recalls being in some type of intergalactic environment. Like what? What? I don't know. Okay, credibility or not. Man, I can give it 1/16 of a grain of sand. Okay, 1/16 into the bucket there. So you can see how much fuller it's getting, right? Yeah. Okay. I mean, just now in this episode, it has gotten fuller. I mean, if you got a microscope, you can see how much fuller it's gotten. Okay. Are we doing more? Are we doing more? Wait. I'm going to skim this. No. We ain't doing more. I can't take any more silliness. The majority of these are silly. But, I explained at the beginning why you have to go through them. And so we do. Somebody's got to do it. But every once in a while, we hit a gem. We hit a gem that just rocks you back on your heels. And you start looking at the documentation and the so-called proof. And you think, oh my God. And that's what we live for. If they were all great ones like that, then it would get boring after a while. So we got to have the shit, to balance that out. Okay. Alrighty, we done. Thank you very much, and good evening, and good night.